So Joanna Morrow 198517, and I am reflecting on rehearsal for performance unit 5 and also the Stanislavski and Stephen Berkoff monologues. So for the monologues, I was asked to create a 100-word monologue where we had to base this around Stanislavski, and then after writing the monologue for Stanislavski, we then had to kind of act that out in front of the rest of the class on our own, and we then had to change this around Stephen Berkoff style, where we all had to go away and write our own workshops, and then perform, kind of do that with the rest of the class. I didn't really enjoy doing that because I did struggle with kind of changing it over from Stanislavski to Stephen Berkoff. We then took part in Farm of Terror when we went through the group workshops in college, where Terry would come in, who owned Farm of Terror, where he'd come in and kind of give us a different kind of ways to look at characters and different ways to improvise, and he basically just worked on our improvisation skills. But with this I was able to improve on changing from one character to another, which I did struggle with beforehand. I did notice that when we took part in Farm of Terror, we had to base the performance on the audience. So, for example, when I was performing, I had one guy that kind of punched me in the face, and then we had to change how I acted that out next time. Like, I had to distance myself from the audience a bit, but then still kind of get close to them. Each performance, we noticed as well, it wasn't the same as we had based it on. So, like, again, the audience was different every single time, so whereas with the monologues it was the same every time. Both of these units, I think, were completely different, as the process for the monologue unit was a lot more choreographed and scripted, whereas Farm of Terror was improvised a lot more than anything else. Although both were based around horror, Farm of Terror was more of a site-specific performance because we were actually based at a farm, whereas the Stephen Berkoff monologues, we were just down in the theatre, so it wasn't really site-specific. I'd say my target for both of them would be to kind of work on getting into character more, a lot quicker, so then I can focus on other things. So going into a bit more detail about each unit, Farm of Terror, I was for the first night done for Lights Out, which was directed by James Wan, and he's directed other films such as like The Conjuring and Insidious. So because I researched things like that, I put this into my performance, which helped me a lot with kind of understanding the character a lot more. I did practice with one of my class friends who helped me focus on the movement of my performance, as she had done Farm of Terror previous years. And due to this not being very successful the first night, with the lights out not really working properly, they had to change my role around. So then the next few nights I was a Silent Hill nurse. And for this, I kind of had to research very quickly, because on the day I was just said that I was being a Silent Hill nurse. So I had to research really quickly by watching some YouTube videos on how they actually did worked in the film, because I hadn't watched the film, but I did the night after. And we were kind of put in a dark hallway, and I had to move my body like they did in the film. This I did struggle with a bit, but I got a lot of help from Terry, like the owner, and from a few people who'd watched the film. I think this worked successfully, and like as we got over the last few nights, I was able to experiment with the character and then see how far I could take it further. I think that this was completely different to the Stephen Berkoff. I had to adapt my age range from a woman who could extend her own body to another level, like into a child. This character built up like a lot more over a longer period of time and was improved from the feedback of my classmates, rather than with Farm of Terror. It was improved from like getting the audience's reaction. it was still enough time, like, because we didn't have much practice for this, like, for the monologues, it was still enough time for me to write the 100 word script and also devise a performance.